I didn't come back home to be a hero. Hell, I didn't even come back to be noticed. After 18 months in the dirt and fire of Afghanistan, Cleveland felt like a ghost town pretending to be a city. Buildings stood tall but hollow. Sirens replaced. Birdsong. Laughter had rusted into silence. And my old neighborhood, once a tight-knit row of families, barbecues, and borrowed lawnmowers, was now a battlefield of a different kind. Got off the Greyhound bus with a duffel bag slung over one shoulder, my boots still stained with foreign soil. The streets smelled like diesel and cheap liquor. Kids ran wild with no discipline. Men stood on corners with hands in their pockets and hate in their eyes. There were no uniforms here, just hoodies, bandanas, and the invisible armor of fear. Walked 3 blocks without a single familiar face. Nobody greeted me. Nobody cared, but that was fine. I wasn't looking for a welcome parade. I found my mother's house still standing, though barely. The porch sagged like tired shoulders. The windows were covered with metal bars. The old rocking chair was missing. When I opened the door, the scent of old coffee, Lysol, and loneliness hit me like a left hook. "Daniel?" came a voice from the kitchen. "Yeah, Ma," I said. "It's me." She stepped out slowly, smaller than I remembered, wrapped in a floral robe and years of waiting. Her eyes teared up instantly, but she didn't cry. That was the kind of woman. She was tough as the nails my father used to hammer into the walls before he vanished. "Your room's still there," she said. I didn't touch it. I dropped my bag, nodded, and walked in like I never left. The room hadn't changed. Posters of the Browns on the wall, a folded American flag in a shadow box above the bed, my old Marine Corps hoodie still hanging on the back of the chair. I sat down, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself exhale. But peace didn't last. Long, that night, I heard gunshots. 4 pops, then tires squealing. It was close, maybe a block away. My body reacted before my mind could process. I dropped to the floor, heart pounding, instincts fully awake. Just like the compound attacks in Kandahar, I stayed low, breathing through clenched teeth, listening. Then it hit me. I wasn't in Afghanistan anymore. I was in Cleveland, and yet, somehow, I wasn't any safer. The next morning, I walked out with a cup of stale coffee and took in the street. 2 houses down, yellow tape was being pulled off a fence. I recognized the kid sitting on the stoop, little Darnell. He used to chase ice cream trucks and sell lemonade. Now he had a teardrop tattoo under his eye and a pistol-shaped bulge in his hoodie. What happened? I asked, stepping onto the sidewalk. He looked up, surprised. "Who the hell are you?" "Daniel. Used to live here. My mother's house." His eyes narrowed, then widened. "Oh, damn, Dot Miss Clara's son?" I nodded. "Man," he said, shaking his head. "You came back at the wrong time." I didn't answer. I just stared at the bullet holes in the mailbox across the street. Over the next few days, I started noticing the patterns. Same guys. Same corners, same tensions. There were no gangs in uniforms, but there were territories. Eyes tracked you. Words were code. Violence was currency. I didn't go looking for trouble, but trouble knew how to find me. One afternoon, I caught a group of teenagers spray painting the side of my mother's fence. One of them saw me and laughed. "What you gonna do, old man?" he said, his skin still hissing. I stepped forward, slow and steady. "Put it down, or what?" he asked, puffing out his chest. I didn't speak. I just stared. That's when something changed. One kid noticed the Marine tattoo on my forearm. Another noticed my posture. The way I stood, not like a neighbor, but like a soldier. They dropped the cans and walked off, mumbling curses. Word spread faster than I expected. Next day, a man named Reggie came by. Tall, lean, with a gold tooth and a limp. "Hey, man," he said, arms out, fake smile. "I heard you back. Said you scared off some of the young bucks." I didn't reply. He leaned in. "See, I run things around here. Got a little business. Going, you feel me?" I didn't flinch, not interested. "Oh, I know. You a war hero and all," he sneered. "But this ain't the desert, bro. This here's my sandbox." He turned to leave, then paused. "You best keep to yourself, soldier boy." I closed the door without answering. That night, I slept with my old Kabar knife under the pillow. 2 weeks passed. I fixed the front porch. We painted the fence, planted flowers in the yard. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, unsure of what to make of me. Some nodded, some didn't, but something was shifting. The chaos had a new variable now, and that variable didn't blink. Started walking the block at night. No weapon, just my boots and my presence. At first, people mocked me. Then they avoided me. And then they started respecting me. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I didn't come back to be a hero, but sometimes the fight chooses you. And when it does, you either stand up or you lose your home again. Asterisk, I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of the sirens or the shouting or the occasional gunshots outside. No, I had long grown numb to those sounds. It was the silence between them that made me restless. That eerie calm where you wonder what's being plotted in the shadows. In Afghanistan, that silence meant an ambush was coming. In Cleveland, it meant a robbery, a revenge shooting, or some kid about to make the worst decision of his life. By 5 a.m., I was already dressed. Coffee in hand, I stood by the window, watching the early risers shuffle to buses. Old men dragged their trash cans to the curb. A mother walked her daughter to school, holding her tiny hand like it was made of gold. Life was still happening here. That's what gave me purpose. But I wasn't just going to watch anymore. By 7 a.m., I was knocking on doors. There were 2 ex-Marines living 3 blocks down, Will and Diego. We weren't close during service, but we respected each other. They had both seen the same fires I had, and I knew they hadn't forgotten how to fight, even if it wasn't with rifles anymore. I laid it out simple. "This neighborhood's falling apart," I said. "We've got kids running with gangs, corner dealers posting up by the playground, and cops who drive through with their windows rolled up. You know what that means." They nodded, so we either sit back and complain about it, or we take control. Will smirked. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" I said nothing, just handed them each a folded paper with a meeting spot and time. Diego looked at it, then me. "We're in." That evening, 8 of us met in the back room of an old church. Some were younger vets from Iraq. One was a retired NYPD cop who'd moved here after divorce. One, Harris, was an Army medic who now ran a tiny clinic on East 81st. We weren't a unit, not yet, but we had a mission. We weren't looking for war. We were looking for stability. The plan was simple. Patrol in shifts. Not armed, but visible. Military jackets, boots, posture. Let people know someone was watching. Map the problem zones. Liquor stores, corners with open dealing, abandoned buildings used for squatting or worse. Talk to the youth. Not like preachers, but like men who'd been where they might end up. The first week was rough. We got stares, some laughs, a few threats. One kid even threw a bottle at us. But we kept showing up. By the second week, people started nodding at us instead of looking away. A few shop owners even offered coffee. Miss Jenkins on 75th baked us pies. That woman hadn't smiled in years, they said. She smiled now. Then it happened. A drive-by hit the corner of St. Clair and 85th, middle of the afternoon. A 9-year-old boy was caught in the crossfire. His name was Yalin. We didn't know him, But we knew kids like him. Too many. That night, we met again. No formal speeches. Just anger and a quiet, focused fire. This ends now, I said. We shifted tactics. More night patrols. We reached out to community leaders. Talked with local pastors. Even contacted a few off-duty cops we trusted. We didn't want a war with the gangs. We wanted them to know the streets. Where no longer there's dot, we set up cameras near the worst intersections. Used personal funds. Crowdfunded the rest. Then we sent a message to the dealers, dot, not a threat. A reminder, this neighborhood has veterans now. We fought for this country. Now we fight for this block. If you think we'll back down, you never studied your history. Some packed up overnight. Some didn't. One group tried to confront us. 4 of them in hoodies, walking fast down the alley where Harris's clinic stood. They didn't expect. 5 men with combat training waiting on the other side. We didn't fight. We didn't need to. We just stared. Sometimes silence is the loudest sound a man can hear. They left. They didn't come back. Weeks passed. Then months dot, we painted over gang. Tags. Cleaned the playground. Rebuilt the basketball hoops. Harris even got a grant to expand his clinic. And the best part? Jalen's mother joined our evening patrols. She walked with pride. Her son's name became more than a tragedy. It became a reason. One night, she said something that stuck with me. I used to be scared of this street. Now I feel safer when I see you men walking. You remind me of something I forgot. This neighborhood is worth fighting for. That night, I didn't just stand at the window. I stood taller. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My mind replayed Malik's words over and over. People around here need someone real. Not another uniform. Not another promise. Someone who's been through fire and didn't burn. I didn't want to be the man they feared. I wanted to be the man they trusted. But trust wasn't free in Cleveland. Especially not here. Not in this forgotten street dot the next morning. I walked out early. No gun, no gloves. Just me, my boots, and my name. People stared. Whispers followed me like shadows. But I didn't care. I walked into that same alley where Malik had first confronted me. He wasn't there, but his boys were. Half high, half angry. You lost, old man? One of them said. I didn't answer. I dropped a black duffel bag in front of them. Tools. Paint, gloves, trash bags. Clean the alley, I said calmly. They laughed. Not out of humor, but mockery. Like I had just asked wolves to sweep their den. I turned and walked away. Not a word. Not a threat. Just walked. I came back the next day, and the next. And the one after that dot by the 4th day, 2 of them were. Sweeping glass dot by the 7th, the alley was clean. Something was changing. Not just in the neighborhood, but in me dot I started doing repairs. Boarded up a broken window on a local store. Fixed a busted fence. The old skills came back, like muscle. Memory from Kandahar. Only this time, the enemy wasn't out there. It was in the apathy. In the silence of a community that had given up. A few of the kids started helping. Malik showed up more often. Said less, watched more. One day, he brought his little sister. To the park dot, I knew what that meant. It meant he trusted me. Enough to show vulnerability. Enough to risk hope. But I wasn't naive. I knew trouble doesn't disappear just because you clean up a sidewalk. It hides, waits, then tests you. That test came on a Thursday night. A car rolled up slow. Black Impala, tinted windows. Out-of-town plates. I knew the type. They weren't here to visit family. 3 men got out. Young, arrogant, armed, looking. For Malik, I stepped out from my porch. Quiet, deliberate. Stood in front of them. Wrong street, I said. They smirked. One lifted his shirt just enough to show the handle of a pistol. "You gonna stop us, Grandpa?" I didn't blink. I just stared. And for a second, just a second, something in them hesitated, because real violence knows its own. And I had the look of a man who had seen worse than anything they could imagine. They turned back to the car, got in, drove off, slowly, but they left. The next day, word had spread. And everything changed. Malik came up to me outside the old community center. "They say you used to be somebody," he said. I nodded. "Still am." He smirked. "You ever think of starting something? Like a program or whatever? For the younger ones?" "I'm not a preacher," I said. "No," he replied. "You're something better. You're proof." We cleaned up the community center that week. Got permits. Called in favors from an old VFW buddy who worked in City Hall. Reached out to local grocers for food donations. I even convinced an old Marine I served with to come in and teach boxing on Saturdays. We didn't save the neighborhood overnight, but the nights got quieter, the fights got fewer, and the kids, the ones everyone called lost, started showing up on time with notebooks, gloves, questions. That was the real fight. Not the blood, not the bullets. The belief that something better was possible. One night, I stood outside the building we had cleaned and restored. The sun was setting. Malik stood beside me. "You ever think of leaving?" he asked. "Used to," I said. "But if I did, who would stay?" He nodded, then said something I'll never forget. "You didn't bring war to these streets. You brought order." I smiled, not the kind of smile you give when you're proud. The kind you give when you realize you finally come home. For years, I was trained to break things, to eliminate threats. But no one trained me on how to rebuild. That part, I had to learn the hard way. In the end, it wasn't about being a hero. It wasn't about revenge, redemption, or even legacy. It was about responsibility. The kind that doesn't come with medals or parades. The kind that starts when the noise ends, when the war is over, and you're still standing. Alone. But not afraid.